Hi guys and welcome to Polygram. So today I thought I'd make a quick tutorial on how to easily make some nice stylized plants. Starting off with the grass, for that we just take a plane and extrude it to roughly get the shape of a grass blade. Then we can duplicate this blade a few times to get this little clump of grass. In the edit mode we can add some variation to the grass using the proportional editing, which you can simply activate by pressing the O key on your keyboard. Now for the color I want to go for a nice gradient effect, and for that I'm adding a color ramp connected to a mapping and texture coordinate node. In the color ramp we can adjust the balance and color of the gradient, and in the mapping we can adjust the position, rotation and scale. I'm giving the bottom of the grass a dark green color and the top I'm giving a light green. Finally, let's duplicate this clump and make a longer version so we can get some more variation in the end. Now we get to the, in my opinion, most important plant for a render, which is the clover. For that we add in a plane, subdivide it once and extrude the strand. Then, just like for the grass, we duplicate it a bunch of times and rotate and scale them differently. For the texturing I'm using the same material as for the grass and just slightly changing it up. And for some more variation I gave some of the leaves a different material, making it slightly more yellow. Now we're getting to the slightly more complicated plants. For that I'm using alpha textures because it's way faster than modeling it and it also needs a lot less polygons. So I'm using Photoshop, but of course you can use whatever software you like to create these plants and export them with a transparent background. Now we can import them into Blender and use the image we just made as an alpha mask. And for the color I just used the same color ramp with the mapping and texture coordinate as for all the other plants. Now for the flowers we're creating two separate alpha textures, one for the stem and the other one for the head of the flower. Now let's import those into Blender and subdivide the head once and make it a bit more 3D. The stem of course gets the same color as all the other plants and the head just gets one single color. Now let's create a different type of flower, so just duplicate the head a bunch of times, scale them differently to make this long head. Now let's make one more plant. For that we just use a leaf form and use the eraser tool to cut out the holes of the leaf. Now let's make some bushes. So back in Photoshop we create this kind of pattern with leaves and export it as a PNG. In Blender we add a sphere and use the proportional editing to make an interesting shape. Now we import the leaves and do the exact same thing as for all the other plants. So use the alpha mask and whatever color you like. And in the edit mode we can deform it a bit to make it look more interesting. Now back to our sphere, we're now adding a particle system and setting it to hair. In the render tab we set the render as to object and the instant object is our leaf. Now we set the rotation to global Y and randomize it a lot. Then let's scale the leaves up a bit and give them more scale randomness. And I also put up the number. And now we got ourselves a pretty nice bush, I think. Now let's put these plants into an environment. So just add a plane and make a particle system just like before and add a base layer of grass. I'd recommend you to put the amount percentage in the viewport display tab down. This makes that only a fraction of the particles is rendered in the viewport, which makes it a lot smoother, and now we can crank up the number of objects. Now we go over to the weight paint tab and make a new vertex group called grass long. Now when we paint everywhere where it's red, there's a lot of objects, and where it's blue there's none. Then we create a new particle system with the long grass that we made earlier, and under the vertex group tab we select the group we just painted. And we're doing that step over and over again with every plant we made. Finally, let's place the bushes and create some quick trees with the sapling tree gen, and I'm just using the bushes for the trees too. And that's how I create nature for my renders. I hope you learned something and we see each other again pretty soon.